Good evening, darling. So I received the following anonymous request, which says, "You fight with two blades. How did that happen? It seems per peculiar, perhaps, for an elf." I think it's a typo. I'm sorry, darling. I don't mean to call you out on that. Um, so the reason why I fight with two blades, it's true. It's a little bit more unusual, I suppose, nowadays. And in the Greenwood, it's more common to fight usually with a single blade or with bow. But our family has been using dual welding as just sort of a tradition. My father thought it was very important that I be able to use both of my hands. That there are advantages, of course, to having a weapon that takes two hands to utilize, but I just found that I didn't like the way I moved with just a single blade. It always felt like I was leaving one half of myself open, whereas with two, I felt like I could sort of protect myself a little more. And it's true, I could have chosen a shield in place of the second blade, um, but I just felt like if I was going to be using that other hand for something, um, I might as well. You can block with the blade as well. I mean, it's a bit of wear and tear on the edge, of course, but um, I just found that I've just moved so much faster with two blades. It lightens the load other than having a whole shield up. Um, and I don't know, it just sort of clicked. I taught my son, like my father had done, various techniques, and um, he prefers knives, which I think, there's a lot of utility to a knife. It's something you can throw, but you have to make sure you pick it back up, of course. Um, but it just seems like the men of my family's line just are more at ease with two weapons in hand, and we're hardly the only elves that use two weapons at the same time. I think if you look back through the histories, you'll find scores of elves that have. It's just, I think, the ones that have become the most popular in recent years tend to be one sword or bow masters. Typically both. I mean, a bow is great for long range, but when someone starts to get a little closer, you need to switch. And perhaps that's why my son, who's always favored the bow above everything else, um, chose daggers or short swords, depending on his mood, just because it's a little bit easier to switch between the two. You just throw your bow across your chest, and then you just whip out a small blade. And you're less likely to damage your bow too. So there's many reasons. But there's not sort of one single precipitating event that made me change or anything. It was just something that sort of was always there. So I didn't really have to make so much of a decision. Um, it's rather a boring story, I suppose, and I am sorry for that, darling. It's just been a dreadfully, and I do mean dreadfully, long, busy week, my lord. You can see I'm still in this awful attire. I haven't tied a bow tie in probably 3 or 4 years. It's been absolutely ages. It looks awful, but it was what was required for this event, so, not up to me. Anyhow, darling, I hope that answers your question. If not, just send me another one. I'm happy to answer anything you have. So, cheers and ta-ta.